The meteor shower wasn't supposed to happen tonight. Dr. Evelyn Reed stood on her cabin's porch, watching the impossible light streak across the Montana sky. 3 years of self-imposed exile had taught her the patterns of the stars, and this wasn't natural. Something was wrong. A particularly bright streak caught her attention, its trajectory too controlled, too deliberate. It wasn't falling, it was landing. The object disappeared behind the tree line of her property, and the ground trembled with impact. Her medical kit was in her hands before she'd made the conscious decision to move. "You're not doing this," she muttered to herself, even as her feet carried her toward the crash site. "You're not a doctor anymore. Not since." The thought remained unfinished, like so many things in her life. The impact site glowed with an ethereal blue light. What she found wasn't wreckage, but a woman, if that term even applied. The being's skin was translucent, with swirling patterns that seemed to move beneath the surface like liquid starlight. Severe burns covered much of her body, but they weren't any kind of burns Evelyn had ever seen. They pulsed with their own light, as if something was trying to heal them from within. "Can you understand me?" Evelyn knelt beside the figure, professional instincts overriding her shock. The being's eyes opened, revealing irises that shifted like aurora borealis. "Yes," the response came in perfect English, though the voice carried harmonics that made Evelyn's skin tingle. "I am Thera. Help, please." Evelyn's hands moved with practiced efficiency, assessing injuries. "I'm Dr. Reed, Evelyn. These wounds." She hesitated. "I've never seen anything like this." "Atmospheric, entry damage," Thera managed between labored breaths. "Pursuing ships, weapons fire. Had to, crash land." "Pursuing ships?" Evelyn glanced at the sky, but saw only the continuing meteor shower, or what she now realized must be some kind of space battle. "We need to get you inside. Can you be moved?" Thera's hand caught her wrist, its touch sending a mild electric current through Evelyn's arm. "Wait. My biology, different. Normal treatment won't work. Need, compatible life force. Blood?" Evelyn's mind raced. "You need a transfusion?" "Yes. But risk, to donor. Your choice, must be, willing." Evelyn stared at her hands, hands that hadn't treated a patient since losing her wife on the operating table 3 years ago. The failure that had driven her from medicine, from civilization, from everything. Now here was another life literally falling into her care. "I have equipment in my cabin," she said finally. "I can do it." The trek back was arduous, with Thera floating in and out of consciousness. Inside, Evelyn's old medical room remained exactly as she'd left it, a shrine to her former life. The transfusion equipment hummed to life, a sound that sent memories crashing through her mind. "This will hurt," she warned, finding what she hoped was a vein in Thera's arm. The alien skin felt like silk over steel, with an underlying current of electricity. "Pain is relative," Thera managed a weak smile. "Your kindness isn't." As Evelyn's blood began flowing into Thera's system, the effect was immediate and stunning. The geometric patterns beneath Thera's skin began to pulse with increased intensity, matching the rhythm of Evelyn's heartbeat. The burn started healing before her eyes, but not like human healing. Instead, the damaged tissue seemed to crystallize and then reform, like watching a time-lapse of frost patterns in reverse. "Remarkable," Evelyn breathed, medical curiosity overtaking her caution. "Your cellular regeneration rate is unprecedented. Your blood." Thera's voice grew stronger, though tinged with surprise. "It's more compatible than expected. The resonance is perfect." A wave of dizziness hit Evelyn, stronger than normal blood donation should cause. The room seemed to pulse with a soft light that emanated from Thera's skin. "Is this normal?" "No," Thera's eyes widened. "This is something new. Something She gasped, her back arching slightly. The genetic compatibility is triggering something. A response in my reproductive system. What? Evelyn moved to disconnect the transfusion, but Thura's hand stopped her. Too late. Already begun. My species, we evolve through genetic absorption. Compatible donor material can trigger cellular transformation. Your blood, it's creating new life. Evelyn felt the room spin. Are you saying? Yes. Thura's eyes met hers, swirling with colors Evelyn had no names for. By your world's terminology, I am now carrying your child. A hybrid. First of its kind. Before Evelyn could process this revelation, a low rumble shook the cabin's foundations. Thura's expression shifted from wonder to fear. They've found us. Both sides. They'll want the child, a new evolutionary path, neither faction's vision of purity. She struggled to sit up. We need to leave. Now. Evelyn stood frozen, her mind reeling from everything that had happened in the last hour. An alien. A transfusion. A pregnancy. And now a pursuit. She looked at her medical equipment, at the life she'd left behind, then at Thura, who represented everything unknown and impossible. The basement, she said finally. It's lead-lined. I used to do radiation therapy research there. It might mask your energy signature or whatever they're tracking. Clever, Thura managed to stand, though she leaned heavily against the examination table. But they won't stop searching. And when this child comes. She left the sentence unfinished. Evelyn gathered emergency supplies with practiced efficiency. Then we'll deal with that when it happens. Right now, we focus on keeping you, both of you, safe. She paused, meeting Thura's otherworldly gaze. I couldn't save someone I loved once. I won't fail again. As they made their way to the basement, the rumble of approaching aircraft grew louder. Evelyn threw one last look at her cabin, at the quiet life she'd built in her grief. By sunrise, everything would change. She didn't know if she was ready to be a doctor again, let alone whatever role this impossible situation required of her. But as Thura's hand found hers in the darkness, that familiar electric current running between them, she realized something. For the first time in 3 years, she felt. The lead-lined basement hummed with an otherworldly glow. Evelyn watched in fascination as Thura's skin pulsed with waves of bioluminescence, each pattern more complex than the last. Above them, helicopter rotors thundered past at regular intervals, but down here, time seemed to move differently. Your cellular structure is completely unlike anything I've ever seen, Evelyn murmured, examining readings from her old medical equipment. She'd hauled down what she could before sealing them in. It's as if your DNA is singing to itself. Thura smiled, her aurora-like eyes tracking Evelyn's movements. An apt metaphor. My people experienced genetic information as harmonics. Your blood added a new melody to my symphony. She placed a hand over her abdomen, where a soft glow pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. And now there's a third harmony forming. The pregnancy is progressing at an unprecedented rate, Evelyn noted, checking her makeshift monitors. Only 12 hours since the transfusion, but the cellular development suggests at least a month's growth. She ran a hand through her disheveled hair. I don't even know what I'm looking at anymore. You're seeing evolution in real time, Thura explained, her voice carrying those strange harmonics that made the air vibrate. My people, the Lumini, evolved the ability to adapt through genetic absorption after our son began dying. We needed to change faster than natural selection allowed. And that led to war? Evelyn asked, remembering Thura's earlier mention of pursuing factions. Yes. Thura's glow dimmed slightly. The purists believe we should maintain our original genetic architecture, letting our species die with dignity if necessary. The progressives advocate for aggressive absorption of traits from other species, becoming something entirely new. She met Evelyn's gaze. I was a genetic researcher who refused to choose sides. Both factions saw me as a threat. A distant explosion rocked the basement, sending dust cascading from the ceiling. Evelyn instinctively moved closer to Thura, her doctor's instincts warring with other, less professional feelings she wasn't ready to examine. They're searching the surrounding area, Thura observed. You're military, my pursuers, they'll find us eventually. The child's energy signature grows stronger by the hour. Then we'll need to move soon, Evelyn said, checking her supplies. I have a former colleague, at a private research facility in Colorado. Someone I trust. She might. She broke off as Thura suddenly gasped, doubling over. The alien skin flared with brilliant light, geometric patterns spinning and reforming at dizzying speed. Thura. Evelyn rushed to her side, medical training taking over. What's happening? The hybrid cells, Thura managed through clenched teeth. They're rewriting my biological framework faster than anticipated. Your genetic contribution, it's more catalytic than any we've encountered. The child. She grabbed Evelyn's hand, pressing it to her abdomen. Evelyn felt it immediately, a pulse of energy that sent tingles up her arm. But more than that, she felt a consciousness, an awareness that wasn't quite thought but wasn't purely physical either. The sensation carried emotions, curiosity, wonder, and something that felt remarkably like love. That's impossible, Evelyn whispered, though the word had lost much of its meaning in the past day. The child exists in both physical and quantum states, Thura explained, her breathing steadying. A true hybrid of our species. Your capacity for emotion, for connection, combined with our ability to experience reality on multiple layers. She smiled weakly. We may have created something unprecedented in the universe. Another explosion, closer this time. Dust rained down from new cracks in the ceiling. Evelyn's equipment sparked with interference. We need to move, she said, already gathering essential supplies. Whatever's happening with the pregnancy, we can't let either side get their hands on. The basement door burst open with a crash of splintering wood. Silhouetted figures poured down the stairs, weapons raised. But before anyone could react, Thura's skin flared with blinding intensity. Evelyn felt that same electric current she'd experienced during their first touch, but magnified 100-fold. When her vision cleared, the armed figures lay unconscious on the stairs. Thura stood, one hand still on her growing abdomen, the other extended toward the fallen intruders. A defensive capability, she explained, seeing Evelyn's shocked expression. Enhanced by your genetic contribution. It seems our child is already protecting both its mothers. Evelyn stared at the unconscious figures, their uniforms weren't military. The insignias were unlike anything she'd seen before. Private contractors, she realized. Someone knows what you are and wants to study you. Which means. She grabbed her medical bag. We can't trust anyone. Not even my old colleague. Thura's hand found hers, that now familiar current passing between them. Trust yourself, Evelyn Reed. You've already done the impossible, saved a dying alien, created new life, defied two civilizations' expectations. Her otherworldly eyes held Evelyn's gaze. And perhaps in saving me, you're saving yourself as well. More explosions sounded in the distance. They had minutes at most before reinforcements arrived. Evelyn squeezed Thura's hand, feeling the pulse of energy that connected them, feeling the quantum echo of their unborn child's consciousness. There's an old mining tunnel, she said. Connects to a network that runs through these mountains. If we can reach it. She paused, the weight of the moment hitting her. Everything she'd built here, her sanctuary from the world, would be gone. But looking at Thura, feeling the impossible life growing between them, she realized she'd found something far more valuable than isolation. "Together," Thera said, reading her expression. "Whatever comes next, we face it together." Evelyn nodded, leading them toward the hidden tunnel entrance. As they disappeared into the darkness, Thera's bioluminescence lighting their way, neither of them saw the small drone that captured their escape, transmitting data to multiple interested parties. The hunt was just. The mining tunnels stretched endlessly through the Montana mountains, their darkness broken only by the ethereal glow of Thera's skin. Evelyn led them deeper into the maze-like network, her years of solitude spent exploring these passages finally serving a purpose. Behind them, distant sounds of pursuit echoed through the stone corridors. "Your heart rate is elevated," Thera observed, her hand brushing Evelyn's arm. "Not just from exertion." "These tunnels," Evelyn replied, checking her tablet's makeshift map. "I used to come here when the memories were too much. After losing Rachel on the operating table." She swallowed hard. "Sometimes the darkness helps you think. And now the darkness protects us," Thera said softly. Her glow dimmed slightly, adapting to their need for stealth. The geometric patterns beneath her skin had grown more complex over the past hours, forming structures that seemed to defy three-dimensional space. They paused at an intersection of tunnels, and Evelyn took the opportunity to check Thera's vital signs with her portable medical equipment. The readings made her breath catch. "This can't be right," she muttered, recalibrating the devices. "The fetal development rate is exponential. These energy readings." She looked up at Thera. "The baby is somehow generating more energy than it's consuming." "That's not possible." "Quantum entanglement," Thera explained, placing her hand over her now visibly swollen abdomen. "The child exists partially in normal spacetime and partially in what your physics would call probability space. It draws energy from multiple realities." A distant explosion rocked the tunnel, sending cascades of dust and small rocks raining down. Evelyn instinctively pulled Thera into a protective embrace, feeling that familiar electric current pass between them. "They're getting closer," Evelyn whispered, but found herself reluctant to break their embrace. The sensation of Thera's energy harmonizing with her own was addictive, a connection that went deeper than physical touch. "Yes," Thera agreed, her aurora-like eyes meeting Evelyn's. "But they don't understand what they're chasing. The child, it's changing me in ways I never anticipated. And I believe it's changing you too." Before Evelyn could respond, her tablet chirped with an incoming signal. Her eyes widened as she read the message. "It's from Dr. Marcus at the Quantum Biology Lab. He's offering help. Says he has a secure facility, off the grid. Can he be trusted?" Thera asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. "No one can be trusted," Evelyn said firmly. "But he's right about one thing, we need a proper medical facility. The pregnancy is progressing too rapidly, and these readings." She gestured at her equipment. "We're dealing with something unprecedented in human or Lumini biology." Another explosion, closer this time. Thera's skin flared brightly for a moment, her defensive capabilities activating instinctively. "The child senses danger," she said. "It's trying to protect us, but each energy pulse makes us easier to track." Evelyn made a decision. "There's an abandoned research station 2 miles ahead. Cold War era, originally designed for nuclear testing. The walls are lined with lead and exotic materials, might mask the energy signature better than these tunnels." They moved quickly through the darkness, Thera's glow lighting their way. Evelyn found her thoughts drifting to Rachel, to that terrible day in the operating room. She'd blamed herself for years, but now, running through these tunnels with an alien carrying their impossible child, she wondered if the universe had larger plans. The research station appeared ahead, its heavy blast doors covered in decades of dust. As Evelyn worked to override the ancient security system, Thera suddenly stiffened. "Something's wrong," she whispered, her patterns shifting rapidly. The child, its consciousness is expanding too quickly. The quantum state is becoming unstable. Evelyn spun around just as Thera's skin erupted with brilliant light. The alien fell to her knees, geometric patterns spinning wildly across her flesh. But more shocking was the way reality itself seemed to bend around her, space rippling like the surface of a disturbed pond. Thera. Evelyn rushed to her side, medical scanner whirring. The baby's energy readings are off the charts. It's like it's trying to exist in multiple states simultaneously. The hybrid genetics, Thera gasped, clutching her abdomen. Human capacity for emotion, for connection, it's amplifying the quantum aspects of my species. The child isn't just growing physically, it's growing across dimensional boundaries. The tunnel behind them filled with approaching voices and footsteps. Evelyn worked frantically to open the blast doors, even as she monitored Thera's condition. "Stay with me," she urged. "Both of you." The doors finally groaned open, revealing the darkened research station beyond. But as they stumbled inside, Evelyn's medical scanner began picking up something else, changes in her own cellular structure, subtle but unmistakable. "It's not just the baby affecting you," she realized, staring at Thera. "Prolonged exposure to your energy, to the quantum fields around the child, it's changing me at a genetic level." Thera managed a weak smile, her glow pulsing in rhythm with both their heartbeats now. Two species, reaching across the gulf of space, creating something entirely new. Perhaps this is what both sides of our war feared, not that we would remain pure or change completely, but that we would find a middle path. A harmony instead of a single note. The blast doors sealed behind them just as their pursuers rounded the corner. Inside the station, ancient equipment hummed to life, responding to Thera's energy signature. Evelyn stared at her medical readings, watching as her own DNA began a subtle dance with quantum possibilities. "What do we do now?" she asked softly, feeling the weight of multiple worlds pressing in around them. "Now," Thera said, taking her hand, "we write a new future. For all of us." In the darkness of the research station, surrounded by Cold War secrets and pursued by forces beyond Earth's comprehension, their joined hands glowed with a light that was neither human nor alien, but something gloriously, terrifying. The abandoned research station's equipment cast eerie shadows across its concrete walls. Evelyn worked feverishly at a retrofitted control panel, her medical equipment interfaced with Cold War-era machines in ways their creators never imagined. Beside her, Thera's bioluminescence had taken on new patterns, fractal designs that seemed to extend into dimensions human eyes weren't meant to see. "The quantum field fluctuations are increasing," Evelyn muttered, studying the readings. "It's like the baby is trying to communicate, but the messages are coming from multiple timelines simultaneously." She rubbed her temples, feeling the now familiar tingle of energy beneath her skin. Her own genetic changes were accelerating, driven by prolonged exposure to Thera and their unborn child. "The child senses the convergence," Thera said, her voice carrying harmonic overtones that made the air shimmer. "Both sides of my people's war, your world's authorities, they're all coming here." Reality itself bends around moments like this. A deep rumble shook the facility. Not explosions this time, but something more fundamental, as if the fabric of spacetime was being stretched thin. The ancient monitors flickered with quantum interference patterns. "Your cellular transformation is remarkable," Thera observed, watching Evelyn work. "You're adapting to quantum perception faster than any species we've encountered. Perhaps that's why." She gasped suddenly, doubling over as waves of light cascaded across her skin. "Thera." Evelyn rushed to her side, medical scanner whirring. The readings made her blood run cold. "The baby's quantum state is destabilizing. It's trying to exist in too many realities at once." "Not destabilizing," Thera managed through clenched teeth. "Evolving. The child carries humanity's greatest strength, your ability to imagine possibilities, to dream of what could be. Combined with my species' quantum nature. She grabbed Evelyn's hand, and the connection between them flared like a supernova. In that moment of contact, Evelyn saw everything. Not just with her increasingly quantum-adapted senses, but with something deeper, the same part of her that had known how to save lives in the operating room, that had recognized something special in Thera from their first meeting. The baby wasn't just a hybrid of their species. It was a bridge between ways of existing. "We need to stabilize the quantum field," she said, her medical training merging with her new understanding. Not by constraining it, but by giving it room to expand properly. She turned to the old facility's equipment with new purpose. These machines were designed to study nuclear physics, but with your energy signature, we could convert them into a quantum incubator. A harsh banging echoed through the facility, someone trying to breach the blast doors. Multiple someones, based on the variety of tools being used. They were running out of time. "Even if we stabilize the quantum field," Thera said, her glow pulsing with increasing intensity, "they won't stop hunting us. Both my people's factions believe their path is the only way forward. And your government." She trailed off as another wave of energy coursed through her. "Maybe they need to see another way is possible," Evelyn said, her hands flying over the controls. Her own transformed cells hummed with energy, letting her perceive quantum possibilities she'd never imagined before. Not evolution through purity or forced change, but through connection. Through love. The word hung in the air between them, charged with more than just quantum energy. Thera's aurora-like eyes met Evelyn's, and in that gaze was every moment they'd shared, every touch, every surge of electricity that had passed between them. "Love," Thera repeated, the word carrying harmonics that made the air dance. The most powerful force for change in any universe. The facility's machines hummed to life, decades-old technology responding to Evelyn's quantum-enhanced commands. She'd created a feedback loop, using Thera's energy signature to create a stable space for their child's unique existence. But as the quantum field began to stabilize, something else happened. The changes in Evelyn's own cells accelerated, responding to the concentrated energy. She felt her consciousness expanding, perceiving multiple layers of reality simultaneously. And through it all, she felt Thera's presence, their connection growing stronger with each passing moment. The blast doors began to glow red as cutting torches worked from the other side. Above them, the sound of helicopters and heavier aircraft grew louder. Through her enhanced senses, Evelyn could feel the approach of ships that didn't belong to any Earth military, the Lumini factions, coming to claim what they saw as their future. "The child," Thera gasped, her skin blazing with light. "It's ready. The quantum field is perfect." She reached for Evelyn, their hands clasping as reality itself seemed to hold its breath. "Whatever happens next, we face it together," Evelyn finished, feeling the surge of energy between them. "All three of us." The blast doors began to give way just as Thera's body erupted with brilliant light. But this time, instead of fighting the quantum fluctuations, they embraced them. Evelyn's modified equipment hummed in harmony with their combined energy signatures, creating a space where multiple realities could safely intersect. In that moment, as their pursuers breached the facility's defenses, as ships from two worlds converged above them, as the very fabric of spacetime stretched to accommodate something new, Evelyn finally understood. This wasn't just about saving a life, or creating one. It was about showing both their species that evolution didn't have to mean losing what you were, it could mean becoming more than anyone had dreamed possible. The light grew blinding, reality bent, and the future rushed to. Light poured from every surface of the research facility, reality bending around the quantum nexus Evelyn and Thera had created. The blast doors finally gave way, admitting a flood of figures, human soldiers, private security contractors, and tall, luminescent beings that could only be Lumini from both factions. But none could approach the sphere of pure energy that had formed around the two women. The child comes, Thera whispered, her voice carrying harmonics that shattered computer screens. Her skin had become almost transparent, the geometric patterns beneath now moving in five-dimensional space. But not as anyone expected. Evelyn stood beside her, her transformed cells resonating with the quantum field. Through her enhanced perception, she could see the truth of their pursuers, the fear and wonder warring in the humans' minds, the rigid dogma fracturing in the Lamini factions as they witnessed something their philosophies couldn't explain. "Stop this immediately," a voice commanded, a Lamini purist, his skin patterns rigid and controlled. "This abomination threatens everything we've preserved for millennia." "The hybrid must be studied," countered another voice, this one from a progressive leader whose patterns swirled with artificial complexity. "Its power could advance our evolution by centuries." "This facility is under United States government control," a military commander added, though his voice wavered as reality rippled around them. "Stand down and prepare for containment procedures." But containment was no longer possible. The quantum field had grown too strong, resonating with possibilities that existed in the spaces between moments. Evelyn felt her consciousness expanding further, touching minds both human and alien. And through it all, she felt the child, not just its physical form, but its quantum consciousness, spanning multiple realities. "You're all so afraid," she said, her voice carrying the same harmonics as Thera's now. "The purists fear losing themselves. The progressives fear not changing fast enough. Humanity fears what it doesn't understand." She turned to Thera, their hands clasping. "But there's another way." The child chose that moment to make its entrance into the world, not with a cry, but with a pulse of energy that temporarily shifted everything in the room into quantum superposition. For a brief moment, every person present existed in multiple states, experiencing different versions of themselves across countless realities. When normal spacetime reasserted itself, a small form floated in the energy field between Evelyn and Thera. The baby's skin held the geometric patterns of the Lamini, but they moved with human fluidity, expressing emotions as much as information. Its eyes, when they opened, contained galaxies of possibility. "Impossible," breathed the purist leader, his rigid patterns wavering. "Beautiful," countered the progressive, her artificial complexities simplifying in wonder. The military commander's radio crackled with urgent orders, but he stood transfixed, weapon forgotten at his side. "This is what evolution truly means," Thera said, cradling their child as Evelyn supported them both. "Not the preservation of purity, not the forced march of progress, but the natural symphony of connection. Of differences coming together to create something greater than either could be alone." The child reached out, and reality rippled again, gentler this time, more controlled. Every person in the room felt it, a touch of consciousness that transcended species, that showed them glimpses of what they could become. Not by rejecting what they were, but by remaining open to connection, to change, to love. "The quantum resonance patterns," one of the human scientists whispered, checking readings on a tablet. "They're harmonizing. Stabilizing across multiple probability spaces." "Because the child isn't choosing between realities," Evelyn explained, her transformed perception letting her see the truth. "It's bridging them. Just as it bridges our species, our philosophies, our fears of change and our fears of stagnation." The Lamini faction stirred, their ancient conflict wavering in the face of this new possibility. The human forces looked to their commanders, who looked to their superiors, who were suddenly facing questions their protocols never prepared them for. "There will always be those who fear change," Thera said, her glow synchronizing with their child's. "And those who fear preservation. But now there is proof that another path exists. The question," Evelyn added, "is whether we're brave enough to walk it together." The child smiled, a simple human expression that somehow conveyed the complexity of quantum physics. Its small hand touched both its mother's, and the energy field expanded, filling the facility with possibilities. Not just of what might be, but of what already was, in the connections between all living things. In the end, it wasn't treaties or agreements that changed things. It was the simple truth written in the quantum harmonics of a child born of two worlds. The Lumini factions found a middle path, one that honored their past while embracing change through connection rather than conquest. Humanity gained its first steps toward understanding its own quantum potential, guided by those who could see the value in moving slowly, in maintaining identity even amid transformation. The old research facility became something new, not a Cold War relic, but a bridge between species. Evelyn found herself teaching human doctors to understand quantum biology while learning the ancient harmonies of Lumini healing arts. Thurah's research into genetic resonance expanded to include the emotional dimensions her people had forgotten how to see. And their child grew, walking between realities as easily as others walked between rooms, showing both civilizations that evolution's greatest miracles often came not from careful planning or radical change, but from love that was brave enough to reach across the stars. Years later, Evelyn stood with Thurah on the facility's roof, watching their child teach a group of human and Lumini students how to perceive quantum harmonies in starlight. Her hand found Thurah's, that familiar electric current still dancing between them. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "Crashing in my yard, changing everything?" Thurah's patterns swirled with amusement and love. "Do you regret running out into that storm, ready to save a dying stranger?" Evelyn thought of Rachel, of the grief that had driven her into isolation, and how that same healer's heart had ultimately led her to a love that transcended worlds. "No," she said softly. "Some kinds of change are worth any risk." Above them, the stars shimmered with quantum possibilities, and their child's laughter echoed across realities, a reminder that the universe's greatest gifts often came disguised as its greatest challenges. All you had to do was be brave enough to reach out, to connect, to love. And in that love, find evolution's truest